Good evening, boys and girls. It's Friday Junior. We're almost to the end of another week. And it's only mean it's another football match, a 3 o'clock kickoff once again. The biggest question is, though, is Josh prepared to deliver the kind of tactics that will impress Super Kev tonight? Let's see. Here we go. It's the tactical squad with Josh the Human.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Good evening, boys and girls. Indeed, welcome to another live edition of the Highbury Squad. I'm your host, Sophie Nicolau. Joining me once again is my podcast brother from another mother, Mr. Super Kevin Campbell.
How are you, Sophie? You all right?
I'm doing good. It's my last day here out in the desert, and I'm preparing to go home immediately after this show. So we're going to make it a good one. You know who's back, Kev? Guess who's back? Back again.
Who's back? I wonder.
Josh is back. Tell a friend.
I'll tell him. You've had me going through plenty in my head after your revelation last week, Josh.
Oh, yeah, and I'm sure if people haven't heard it, they can find it on the YouTube channel as well. But yeah, I'm surprised I came back so quickly. I think it was, it went to a panel's decision to get my red card rescinded. From last time.
Not rescinded. And Josh,
no,
you'd be pleased to know.
You're up in front of the panel, us on the Squaddies tonight, so be careful.
The truth is that he didn't get a 3-match ban, so he is back to do the Burnley tactics. And some housekeeping, if we can get that out of the way, you guys. Mr. Kevin Campbell's yellow card was not rescinded. It was reviewed by the panel and the board, and his yellow card stands. So Super Kevin Campbell on a yellow card this season, and it was not for his comment, it was more for the fact that he broke all of the audio equipment here at Highbury Squad Central when he went supersonic on his comment.
Hey, listen, I hold my hands up for that one. Josh, I hold my hands up for that one. If I'm getting a yellow for that, I hold my hands up.
I mean, I was there a bit like
speakers were going and everything. Even I popped in my ears as well. Don't worry about that.
I'm like, I know I'm looking for like new apps to improve our presentation, but Kev broke it all the other night. Right. There's nothing. Listen, it's never, ever a Highbury Squad show, Josh, unless moments like this happen. Let's be honest. Okay.
Yeah. For sure.
All right. You got 45 minutes. First half, second half. No added time tonight, Mr. Josh. You're going to take us through Burnley versus the Arsenal. Before you do that, welcome to all the Squaddies in the house. We're not ignoring you. If anyone can hear any feedback, let me know. I'm sure they're just going to lie and tell me they hear feedback. Kev, let them know.
Listen, and however many people come in, make sure you hit the like button. Because you know what? If you ain't that lot down the road who we got in a couple of weeks, hit the like button. And Vinny, if a Vinny pops up, hit it. Don't forget, hit it like Vinny. There you go. Go on, Vin. Just like that.
Just waiting for the at ease there, Kev.
Hold on. I know, but I wanted to get Vinny in while we're doing it at ease.
All right. Well, look, I want to take you guys a little bit back. Good evening to everyone in the house. Attention, Squaddies. All the regulars are here, Josh. Okay. They know what you said last week, and you will get a time to redeem yourself at the very end of the show. Before we head into your tactics and what you're going to present to Super Kev tonight, Burnley did play Everton, as we all saw on Monday night. They seemed to control the game for a lot of the time in the match. Possession would say Everton were the winners, 51-48. Shots total for each team, 14 to Everton, 11 to Burnley. On target, 6 each. Off target, 4 to the Toffees, 3 to the Clarets. Passing 74% completed by Everton, 68 by Burnley. Clear-cut chances, 2 for the Toffees, 3 for the Clarets, and corners, 4 for Everton and 6 for Burnley. Both teams were caught offside twice. And the aerial duels for those Ben White fans, 54.2% to Everton and 45.8% to Burnley. And Burnley committed double the fouls of Everton with 6. 1 yellow card each. Josh, I'll hand it over to you right now. It did seem like Burnley were in control of that game, and then it turned around. Everton definitely playing with a higher press and a speed. Benitez, of course, seems to have got this team together with not bringing in too many reinforcements. Why don't we start with what you saw in that game and what Kev saw too before we kind of get to how we can beat them?
Yeah, I think for me, the really key thing was Rafa making that change midway through the second half, going back to the system that they were used to, the 4-4-2. I saw that 4-4-2 used when they came down to the Amex, and did Brighton pretty well with it, with the Decore through the middle, showing, you know, the kind of power that he can bring to that midfield. Alan behind him just sweeping up. And then you could see the 2 aggressive wingers in Damari Gray and Townsend, kind of inverted, really going at Burnley, and then 2 men up top, just keeping everybody occupied. The centre-backs didn't really know what to do, really, having 2 up top. And for me, that's something that I wonder if we try and replicate, in terms of, we've got Nicolas Pepe on there. He can take almost the Andros Townsend mantle of running at Burnley again, because they didn't like it. And we saw Townsend's goal. You'd say he hits one every season, a bit like that. Absolutely stunning finish. Absolutely stunning finish. And we've seen it from Pepe before. He's got that technique. I'm not suggesting he'll hit another one. He'll hit one from 35 yards, but he's got to be popping shots off as well, because that Burnley team, they're going to be worried about any player who's got a finish in them taking an early shot against them. And I can't wait to kind of see how we line up. I don't think, almost going into what I'll probably be proposing, it's not going to be too much of a change from what we saw last weekend. But yeah, from everything we've got in place, that seems to be the key for me, is ensuring that back line is occupied at Burnley, and then covertly how we can deal with, the long ball up to Chris Wood, which Burnley Everton, they dealt with quite well. With the centre-backs ahead in place. Would manage to get a couple of wins in there, but I think we've got enough in our locker again to be imposing ourselves on this Burnley side that I know we haven't won in the last 3 occasions in the league that we've played Burnley, only scoring once.
One point last season, Josh, 1 point. Yeah. And Kev and I talked a lot about, feeling confident against beating Norwich, but the Burnley game would bring in all sorts of other challenges. Kev, your former team struggled for a long spell against this team, but then somehow, was it speed? Was it the press that broke them? As Josh said, that change really triggered the momentum.
I think there's that, and there's the fact that Burnley took the lead. Took the lead, and sometimes when you take the lead, you see teams take a step back. Everton then changed their system. They're at home. They went for it. And they started to get good ball to Damari Gray and Andros Townsend. And let's be honest, Andros Townsend's cross for Michael Keane's goal was pinpoint, and he had the right speed on. He just needed to guide it, and he did. That gets them back into the game. Then, his goal was world class, let's be honest. And then that puts Burnley on the back foot. They have to then start pushing men up. And as Josh rightly said, with the 4-4-2, Decore starts getting released. And Decore starts using his pace and power. And what a fantastic pass that was. Cut open Burnley. And Damari Gray's the form guy at the moment, isn't he? He goes through and finishes it. And the game's over. And Everton only needed to be really good for probably 15, 20 minutes. That's all they needed. They just needed to stay in the game. I'll tell you another thing about Burnley. It's not the first ball. It's the second ball that you have to get on. The ball up to Wood. Wood could win the header. But if you saw Everton done well with the second ball, if you could do well with the second ball, then you get the opportunity to start cutting through Burnley. And that's what Everton done especially well second half.
Okay, so really good points all the way around. And by the way, you guys, remember how snobby everyone got when Everton signed Townsend and Gray? You know, sometimes we fans have such a prickly way of responding. Practical. Benitez does practical players. Well, doesn't he, Kev?
He really does. Practical players who can not only perform, but produce. That's the key. It's about production. If you're going to bring a player in, it doesn't matter whether it costs 50 million or 500 grand. You're bringing him in to try and produce inside your team. And let's be honest, for what is it? Andros Townsend was a free transfer. Damari Gray was 1 point whatever million. And they're performing like they cost big money. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so indeed, Newman, let's get serious. We're going to hand it over to Josh now. Josh, I'm going to bring up your graphic from the last time you picked the team. I believe it's this graphic, correct?
Yeah, so this is what actually happened against Norwich. And I have made a list. Don't worry, people, because I'm sure it will save you time digging through last week's show to try and find all the mistakes I've made. I've done it for you. Don't worry.
I love it.
Yeah. Super Kev had it with Ramsdale starting over Leno, Tomiyasu coming straight in at right back, and striker Saka over ESR. Those were the main ones I had. I will take one little mini win in the fact that Maitland-Niles started in midfield for us, and I thought was excellent in covering behind Tierney. When Tierney went and bombed up the field, I think we looked a lot more secure when defending anything coming down the opposition's right flank, with having Maitland-Niles in there just to sweep up. And for me, yeah, I think
so Josh, can I just interject here? Do you think
in terms of the number of shots we had against Norwich, 30 shots. That's more than I think we've had all season up until that moment. And
yeah,
I thought we lost him there. I thought we lost him there. Yeah. I was going to ask him if he thought then that Arteta made the right decision, replacing, bringing on Partey and taking off Sambi.
Yeah.
Because Kev, I think we all wanted to see Sambi and Partey, even if it was just going to be for those 20 minutes.
Final 20, yeah, it would have been.
And the Maitland-Niles in midfield. We want it,
don't we? We want to see it. We do.
But also, I think it was so polarizing because our good friend of the show, Kenny Ken, was raving about Maitland-Niles on Lee's channel and thought he did a great job. And then there were a lot of Arsenal fans that thought he was a bit wasteful with the ball. And if you just focused and watched him for a little bit, yes, there were moments where he had good distribution, but is he going to be the answer in midfield long term? And you don't think he's going to be that at all, do you, Kev, if we're going to improve in that midfield area?
Yeah, look, I think Ainsley Maitland-Niles is a good player. But I don't see enough in him to get ahead of Sambi, and definitely not Partey. Obviously, El Neni, you could say Maitland-Niles can be ahead of him, yes. Even Xhaka to a point. He's more athletic. That's probably why we look more solid when Kieran Tierney bombed up and down that left-hand side. When he went up, he could come across and he could cover a lot more because he's more athletic. But nobody could tell me that he's better on the ball than Sambi, or definitely not Thomas Partey. And we want to be able to progress the ball quicker. And I don't think Maitland-Niles is that type of player. I think he's a solid enough player. But to progress that ball forward quickly, I don't think he's the answer, in my opinion.
And Kev, it felt like when Everton really were able to pull the strings against Burnley, it was with speed. They played a little bit faster. But also, I wanted to ask you this too, because they did play down the middle a lot. And it feels like sometimes, I'm not sure what the tactic is for Arteta, because he loves playing through Tierney. He loves playing on the other side as well. But do you think that's the case of our midfield needing to gel more before he trusts playing the ball through at a faster pace down the middle, Kev? And now we have Odegaard and, Emil Smith-Rowe and options. We're going to be seeing a lot more of that because that's what the fans have been crying out for. Xhaka's slow, holds the ball up. Now with Sambi and Thomas, maybe that can change just a little bit.
Yeah, I think we saw, we saw snapshots of it last season where Thomas Partey, he's so good at getting the ball and playing it, fizzing balls into Odegaard or whoever's on the side, Smith-Rowe, in between, that no man's land, that gap. He's very good at that. And again, when he's not on the pitch, we don't have the quality to punch it through there. So Sambi can do it at times, but I think teams more zero in on him because they know Maitland-Niles can't do it. So they don't mind Maitland-Niles having the ball. They don't want to have the ball is Sambi.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how I feel in terms of when Odegaard gets the ball, I feel the opposition are fearful. When Emil Smith-Rowe gets it, I feel the same. Feel the same with Saka. I feel the same with Thomas Partey. But do I feel the same with Maitland-Niles? I feel like he's a substitute for Xhaka, and he gives Arteta that play it safe angle that Xhaka would ordinarily give him in that role. And I feel like, and I fear that's maybe why he might pick Maitland-Niles at the weekend versus going for the Thomas Partey and Sambi Lokonga combination. We're going to hand it back to Josh now. So Josh, why don't we bring up the squad that you're proposing for Burnley? Should we just kick right into it?
Yeah, I think so. Sorry, everybody.
That's okay. Everyone's suggesting that Thomas Partey cut your internet connection off because he found out what you did.
Well, there is a potential that he'll have to say sorry because as you put my team up, you'll see he is firmly in it next to Sambi Lokonga as well. That's my kind of expectation. It's the same team that we saw against Norwich, basically, but the only difference in the lineup is bring Thomas Partey in. Hopefully, he's at the stage now where he can get 60 minutes in his legs rather than half an hour. And then at 60 minutes, you look to take him off probably if he's not ready to go all the way. I know Arteta's been a bit, he's played his cards close to his chest on Partey's fitness right now. So especially when we've got Wimbledon coming up midweek, that's another opportunity for Partey maybe to get 90 minutes in his legs before the North London derby as well. But otherwise, exactly the same team that we started the game with against Norwich, just bringing Thomas Partey in for Maitland-Niles, just to deal with that physicality that Burnley have got in that midfield. I think having Partey and Lokonga in it is going to be better than Lokonga and Maitland-Niles, or even Maitland-Niles and Partey. Kev, what did you reckon to that?
Yeah, I like that. I want to see that partnership in the midfield. I thought the partnership of White and Gabriel was decent because we know Gabriel's the really aggressive one, and Ben White, he will clean up and he's good on the ball, etc. But Sambi and Partey, I agree with. I think Partey plays 70 minutes, 75 minutes if possible, because we don't risk him in the week because you know what's coming the week after. So you don't take a risk with him in the week. Let him play as many minutes as he can against Burnley, and then he can have a full week of training and then go into the big one against Spurs. That's what I think.
So I wanted to jump in and ask Josh about, you got Ramsdale in your squad. If I remember correctly, Kev, he had Leno in
all of
two
them.
or three of his...
Every single one. Every single one.
Yeah,
don't worry. I'll sit with Kev on that one and I'll put myself into the corner. Yeah, I had Leno in all my squads. I think the real question on whether or not who's number one, who's not number one, is who's between the sticks when we play Tottenham in a week's time. Yeah, whoever's getting given the gloves for the North London derby, I think that's the goalkeeper he trusts in that moment, at that time.
So
Did
a
you hear
lot
the
of people
rumor? Did you hear the rumor about some guy at Bayern Munich saying that Leno's going to be definitely playing against Spurs? I'm like, hey? Must
Really?
be. Yeah, that was the rumor that came out. Some guy at FC Bayern said it, and I was like, really?
That's interesting. I just wanted to ask you here. So with this team, I wanted to talk about Emile Smith-Rowe a little bit, because many Arsenal fans feared that with Odegaard coming in, even though he's like an 8, you know, there's the juxtaposition of him and you know, Emile Smith-Rowe as that 10. You know, sometimes Saka's interchanging into that role, whether depending on who we play. We saw last season he and Willian interchanging between those roles in a couple of games. Why is Emile Smith-Rowe all of a sudden being left on the bench? Is it tactically? Is it you can't fit too many? You can't fit them both in. They can't play together? Because a lot of people are asking about that.
It's interesting on that one. I wonder, for Smith-Rowe's perspective, that, you know, he knows that if Odegaard isn't playing well, if Saka isn't playing well, he's probably the first name off the bench at this moment in time, and then it's for him to kind of prove and displace those players from starting the next week. And I think that's where we'll see Smith-Rowe coming in. You know, if we're chasing a game, we've already said that, you know, Partey or maybe Lokonga doesn't go through the entire 90 minutes. Instead of Maitland-Niles coming on, let's bring ESR on in the middle instead and add some more creativity and drive in there. And that's what I wonder if we see him there, because we've only got so many games right this season. I don't see us chopping and changing too much, being quite consistent with the lineups that we'll see in the league. Again, we're talking about another game we've got midweek as well next week in terms of what's available for AFC Wimbledon, so we can see there. Obviously, we know the level Smith-Rowe can play at. He's not going to prove anything to us against Wimbledon, I imagine. But I think for right now, who would we take out for Smith-Rowe at this point in time? And I can't see anyone right now, based on the performance we saw against Norwich, that I'd immediately go, yep, that's definitely 100% that player out to bring Smith-Rowe in.
I want to switch it to Kev, because Kev, one of the things you harped on about a lot last season was not relying on Saka and Emile Smith-Rowe too much, that we can't afford to put the burden on these young players. So a lot of the fan base also agreed with you and were very vocal about this. But once again, in true Arsenal fan fashion, he's not played and the sky's falling and we're destroying him, and we brought other players in, which is going to stunt his growth. I would actually like to see Saka rested a little bit too, if we can make that work with regards to maybe bringing Martinelli in and mixing those two up a little bit. Can you talk me through your stance on protecting the young players, and if it's okay for Emile Smith-Rowe to start off the season in this fashion, on the bench, coming on, maybe being a hero in a second half? What's your take on it?
Yeah, I think Emile Smith-Rowe is he's fine. He's going to be finding his feet right now, because if we're all honest, Sophie, you know, we just mentioned about production. Production now is the key to Arsenal. You have to have production. And we've seen Emile Smith-Rowe play in, what did he play? The first 2-3 games he was involved in. And he was on the bench for the Norwich game. Came on, done pretty well when he came on, but had decisive things, moments, had a great chance, didn't take it. That's production. These are the things, when you get that opportunity, you need to take these chances. And for me, I still think there's a lot of growth for Emile Smith-Rowe. We're not questioning his talent. Saka, I could say the same. I think Saka's obviously ahead of him, but I still would say the same about Saka at times. You know, he really does need to get that production at the top end of the pitch, whether it's assists, whether it's goals, being a threat. I know we worked very hard against Norwich, but he's one of our flair players, and we need to see some production at the top end. Because, you know, whatever people say about Pepe, he's involved in goal-scoring actions. He's involved in a lot of our best things. He's involved in.
He may not be involved in the entire game, but he's the type of player. And I guess this is, again, the twisty thing about how we see him. He could be AWOL for 45 minutes, but he'll do something in 2 minutes and he helps the team get a point or win a game. That's been his style, Josh. And when Kev did his starting 11 for the season, the majority of the squaddies and people in chat didn't have Pepe in their team. And Kev didn't have him in his starting lineup.
On the bench.
For a lot of fans, Pepe presents opportunity. Now, opportunity may not come for 90 plus minutes, but it may come for 5 or 6 where it counts.
Yeah, and I think, as we said almost near the top of the show, that Everton won the game in versus Burnley in 6 minutes. All their goals came in a tiny little spell relative to 90 minutes. So that's where we can see Pepe, and as you mentioned, that he only needs a half chance to create something. And it's the case of, are you okay with the rest of Pepe? For the 89 minutes, for the 80 minutes of the game, that Pepe that is frustrating to watch isn't necessarily as driven as you'd want him to be. But are you okay, and can you live with that 10 minutes? And that's the kind of, he's a luxury player in that regard. But his form towards the back end of last season speaks for itself. He was getting into contention for being top goal scorer last season, just based on that run that he had towards the end of the season. And that's where I'd like to see more of that from him in a more pressure situation, because I don't think there was much pressure on the squad towards that end run of the season where Europe didn't look likely. We were out of all the cups. That's where I want to see Pepe kind of take, the ball by the horns, the game by the scruff of the neck, all of the various different tropes you can put to that.
And Josh, I think would you guys agree that he's kind of done that? I've been so critical of him, but he's really not. It feels like he's matured a little bit to the point where he's unafraid to try things on the pitch because he knows maybe eventually something's going to stick. There's a difference between, say, a Mahrez who may just need a couple of opportunities to make something happen, whereas a Pepe might need 6 or 7, but he'll make it happen eventually. Kev, sometimes it's frustrating playing with players like that and against players like that too, because they're unpredictable. And I think that's what it is with Pepe. It's like he needs multiple. People say that about Aubameyang. Henry was one chance, he's going to bury it. Aubameyang is give 3 or 4 chances and then he'll bury 1, whereas maybe another striker will bury 2 to the ratio.
All strikers and forwards who are kind of maverick, because that's what Pepe is. He's a maverick, isn't he? And he could be awful for 85 minutes, but the 5 minutes where he is good, he can really change the game. We've seen it happen. But as Stacey says, it's the consistency. We know he was working on the training pitch last season, second half especially with Mikel Arteta, and he kind of added a bit of consistency to his game. Now the pressure's on now. Let's be honest, the pressure's on now. Now we want to see him. I like the way he started last week, although we didn't get much change out of Norwich. Especially at the start, he was very direct. He picked the ball up and he was running at the fullback early doors. And I think he's a confidence player. If he beats his man, then he really fancies it. If he doesn't beat him a few times, then I think, he tends to turn around and start playing more safe. So I'd like him to be a risk taker.
Yeah, he's all about that first 5 minutes, isn't he? If he beats his fullback that he's up against in the first 5 minutes, you're going to get a good game from him. If he's quiet or he gets kicked, he tends to then not come back. And I'm hoping that's one of the things that Arteta has worked with him on the training ground, is that resilience, as you say, because when he does beat that fullback and say, you didn't beat him the first time, but out of 5 opportunities, if you bring that back up to 3 out of 5, you're going to get your confidence back. You're then going to start shooting. And that's what we really need to see from Pepe.
Okay, Josh, let's talk about some of the new boys, right? I want you to take me through this a little bit. I dig this. I think most Arsenal fans would say, maybe minus Emile Smith-Rowe, I think, touches on the heartstrings a little bit, but this is probably our best team that we can field right now. Can you talk to me about this guy who could have had a wonder goal in his debut at home? He really put himself about a lot of Arsenal fans, again, questioning the signing, but Thought he did really good. How is Tomiyasu going to be able to affect this game against a very well organised Burnley team?
Yeah, I think what Tomiyasu can do is we've seen, only in 60 minutes he played against Norwich, was that he's got that ability to get up and down the pitch. And when a team is breaking and they're breaking fast against us, he can still be in that back line. And you're like, where did he come from? Because he wasn't on the screen at one moment. The next point, he's then back in position. And that's going to be really key. And I can see people talking in the chat box and they're getting worried about, Mr. Ex-Brighton, Ben White in the air. Well, if he's got Tomiyasu next to him on one side, Gabriel on the other, he can hand it off and he can sweep behind and get that, as Kev said, the second ball with Burnley. It's the knockdown. It's fine if he doesn't win the header against Chris Wood, so long as they clean up wherever he's headed it to, completely mitigates whatever's happened in that first instance. So that's where I think it will be key that we'll see the kind of big, imposing right back play. And if he hasn't got 90 minutes, which I do expect him to play the full 90, perhaps we see Callum Chambers coming in rather than Cedric to replace him, that we did, in versus Norwich.
Okay, Josh, I want you to talk to me and Kevin, everyone, because you mentioned the aerial stuff, and I said on the show I got absolutely murdered for suggesting that Ben White one day maybe could be as talented as Maguire and Stones. And I think people forgot that Maguire and Stones were memes for a while and were ridiculed for the money that their clubs had spent on them. Stones costing his team points, and of course he's gone on to do good things with a great coach. And Maguire definitely has benefited from playing in a proper England team. But talk to me about the Tomiyasu White effect and why fans keep intertwining them together. And what do you really think about this whole controversy about Ben White being crap in the air?
Well, I mean, no centre-back is perfect in what they do in their game. They've all got weaknesses. Even, Virgil van Dijk, I think for a while, there was that he had that aura, so no player would dribble at him. And then he had that kind of statistic that said no player had beaten him in a dribble for, 50 odd games. And then Pepe comes, or I think it was Reece Nelson actually, just went, well, I'm just going to try it and beat him consistently on the dribble and dribbling past him in the game where we beat them in the cup 2 seasons ago. That's the kind of thing that, just saying roundedly, there's no going to be a perfect centre back, especially one with the position we were in last season. So there's always going to be a weakness. Rob Holding is great in the air. He's not, he's not great with his feet in comparison. And I think, as Martin said, Ben White is fine in the air. He's, if he wasn't good in the air, he wouldn't be playing centre back. He'd be in midfield. They'd play him somewhere else. And we're having Tomiyasu in here. I think it just helps him out a little bit. Ben White will still be picking up one of the danger men in the box. We'll put it that way. He did that at Brighton. But as I said, when I did the preview or, the signing of Ben White, what Ben White brings to Arsenal and what he had at Brighton was he had Lewis Dunk and Webster beside him. And Dunk and Webster are better in the air than him. So they picked up the danger men. And it's kind of one of those that, where you get some people that go, oh, because this guy's better, it means this guy's shit. And it's not always that way. It's just that there were 2 great players in the air, and Ben White is just slightly not as good as them. Still good in the air, but it's one of those.
Josh, you watched Ben White. You have a season ticket to Brighton. You watched him all last season.
I watched it behind closed doors, I'll put it that way, because there was no fans last season. So no one at the Amex has seen Ben White live unless they were Leeds fans, because Ben White never played. He played 2 games behind a crowd at Brighton. And they were the test event for Chelsea and one of the other test events, or the last game of the season, sorry. But the only 2 opportunities that Brighton fans have seen Ben White in the flesh playing for Brighton, other than his debut 4 seasons prior to that. Everything that everyone has seen on Ben White has been television, unless you are a journalist that was lucky enough, or like Kev, when he was there with the media and got to see at the Amex, would have been able to see, or wherever he was with Brighton were guests who would have seen Ben White in the flesh. And I think there is a lot to his game where he is smart technically, and there are players, that
Exactly.
weren't great in the air, particularly great Italian defenders. It was all about the mentality. They were, they knew where the game was. They were able to read the game quicker, and that's what makes a great defender. There's the thing
Positionally, exactly.
So and I was saying that if Chris Wood wins the ball in the air, that's not necessarily a problem. So long as we cleared up whatever he does with it, or the header that he gets away isn't going on target, because Ben White's got his body in the right position, that Chris Wood, if he does get his head on it, can't direct it towards goal or can't direct it towards his man. That's a win in my eyes. And when I have played football, I tended to play in defence, and that was one of the things, because I'm not great in the air either. And one of the things was always just make sure if your man does get ahead of you, gets a jump on you, gets a spring on it, just make sure he doesn't do anything with it. And that's the thing that Ben White will be doing as well, is just ensuring that the man, if he does win it, he's there to clean up everything else. And having Tomiyasu and Gabriel, who can then be aggressive in the air when the ball's coming in, he can then just go, all right, guys, and I'm going to predict where this ball's going to go, because he can read the game. And that's what's really important there.
Okay, so this is plan A, Kev.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the time, some folks have said that Arteta doesn't even have a plan A, let alone a plan B. So I wanted Josh to kind of talk through, this is the plan. This is the best squad. This is who we feel can attack Burnley. They're danger people. I want you to talk us through a little bit, Josh. And then if it's not working, what's the plan B for Super Kev here?
Yeah, so I think we all know roughly the danger man for Burnley is Dwight McNeil on that left flank. He's going to be the creative outlet. Everything is going to go to him or long to Chris Wood. So I think it's stopping the ball at source, whoever's trying to play that pass out. That's where the press comes in. We saw Aubameyang in the Norwich game. I think he looked well up for it. At least the camera was showing more of Aubameyang with that movement that we've seen before. Of him being right up for it, pressing the defenders, pushing them into mistakes. We know Norwich wanted to play it out from the back, so maybe a little bit easier. But if we can just get Burnley to continually clear their lines, and they're just clearing it any which way they can, that's going to be the key for me, is making sure we've got the press there, making sure we're closing down McNeil. I know it's going to be a difficult thing for Pepe, but I think it's one of those that Tomiyasu, that's where we're going to see the test of how good a defender he really is. Because I'm imagining Charlie Taylor is going to be coming up the wing as well, especially if Burnley feel like they can get something from this Arsenal team. And I think Sean Dyche is generally of that mentality that he can get something out of this Arsenal side if he gets in early, hits some of the few crunching tackles, as we kind of saw the kind of tactic against Everton as well, was hit their flair players quickly, hit them hard, try and nullify them early doors, and then up to Ashley Barnes, who we know is always going to be running around looking for that kind of, another ex-Brighton player, Ashley Barnes and Chris Wood, I should say, both ex-Brighton. Ashley Barnes loves the dark arts. I think it's one of the parts of his game that's not always mentioned. And yeah, that's one that we've got to be careful of. But I'm not so worried from what I've kind of seen. Again, this is another team that we should be imposing ourselves on. We know that they've got a danger man, but if we get the press right, he's not going to see the ball. He's going to be starved of it. Then the only thing that would be happening is the ball, when they are clearing it long, it's just going to go up to a big man. And then we've got to make sure we're winning, and that press is great. And we've got pace, we've got agility, we've got movement in the midfield to make sure we're just bossing it, clearing everything up, them going about our game, because we're good enough and better than them on the ball to just pass through them. And if we're quick and we're agile, we catch them out of position, then it's exactly what Everton did. It was, talking about the pass Decore did, that was when Burnley had started going on a break, left some spaces open, Decore is there and he says, right, ball straight in, and he's got a winger coming in, flying at the centre-backs. The centre-backs, they don't want to be chasing anybody. They want it all in front of them. They can just sit back, have a cigar going at the same time and just keep heading it out and clearing it up. As soon as we get pace, as soon as we get runners running in and around them, that's what's going to scare them. And yeah, for me, it might be a bit slow and steady whilst we try and draw them out. If they cede possession to us a lot anyway, we've got to try and get them out of their 18-yard box and then play through them. So it's going to be I do imagine a boring game to start with, but I think as soon as the first goal goes in, that's where it will just open up, and I think Burnley would be there for the taking.
Kev, a lot of folks in chat are suggesting that with the physicality of this game, they disagree with Josh and that he should have Laka up top and not play Oba, or maybe play Oba on the left and rest Saka at the start. What do you think about that?
I like the sound of that. I really think this is a game where we have to keep the ball. And if we're going to be playing the ball up, it has to stick. You know, last week was against Norwich, but we were at home. You know, we got the home crowd, the pressure got put on the referee, etc., and we didn't retain it as well as we could have. I think this is tailor-made for Lacazette to play, get hold of the ball with Martin Odegaard and Thomas Partey in the midfield, feeding those balls, and that's how we got Oba in last season. We got Oba in from the left, got in and we scored. And if you remember rightly, we had probably 2 or 3 chances to put the game away and didn't take it. But I'm going to say this again. The key to this game is one is our attitude, and 2, can we stand up to the physical challenge? And it's not just the tackles, it's the mental side of it. Can we play in the face of their physical intent? If we can play in the face of their physical intent, they're going to foul us at times, yeah, fair enough, but we've still got to play. If we can play, we'll win the game. And I truly believe we will play.
Do you think it's the same case for playing Emil Smith-Rowe in a game like Burnley versus Odegaard, who may not be as used to it? I'm just repeating what some of the folks in chat are asking, in a sense that maybe understanding the English game a little bit better at this point, they would veer more to Emil Smith-Rowe than they would Odegaard or
no.
Kev. No. Yeah.
Not at all. Listen, Martin Odegaard's captain of Norway. He knows how to play. He's played in all sorts of different games. He's played in games where people are pressing him and things are physical. He knows it. He knows how to handle it. The key is getting him the ball and moving. Once he gets it, we got to move. If we move when he gets the ball, we're going to be just fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so Josh and Kev, go on, Josh, and then I want to know from the both of you is what the biggest danger is. Go on,
I
mate.
was going to say with Odegaard, at 16 he was playing in the Norwegian men's league. I think he knows how it is to get bullied off the ball. Anybody would have been having their chance to have a go at him, impose themselves on him. He's going to be used to being roughed up. We'll put it that way.
Okay, so what's the biggest danger? I mean, a lot of people talk about, of course, they've got a decent centre-back pairing. I can't remember if Me went off injured or if he's not going to be able to...
He got injured, but he finished.
Okay, all right.
You know what our biggest problem is?
What is it, Kev?
The biggest problem is us.
Concentration.
We're the biggest problem. Because if we don't show up with the right attitude, Soph, because whatever anybody mentions, if we're on our game, we can deal with it. We can deal with set pieces. We could deal with physicality if our mind's right. Mm-hmm. But if our mind isn't right, if the Arsenal that played at Brentford turn up, we are losing the game. But if the Arsenal that turned up against Norwich plays, then we have an opportunity because we were up for it. We didn't play incredible, but we were up for it. We were up for the physical challenge. We were running hard. We were tackling. we had that bit about us. Never say die attitude at the back. So that's what we need. Against Burnley, it's all about attitude because talent for talent, we are more talented than them.
Josh, we've got another 5 or 6 minutes. If you guys have any questions for Josh or Kev, lob them in right now and I'll fire them off to them with 30-second answers. From this, who of this team, other than the new signings, because I do feel like we all expect a lot from Tierney, we expect a lot from Saka, we all want more from Pepe, we want more goals from Aubameyang. Who do you think this is the most important game for from our new signings? Is it Ben White? I feel like the most pressure is on Ben White than any other player to perform well.
I'd say from a fan base point of view, yeah, it's probably Ben White because there's a lot of questions, I would say, in terms of the fee. I don't think this is a game that Arteta's going to make or break Ben White on. In regard, I think it's a player he wants and he's going to play him anyway. If he has a bit of a dodgy game, Arteta will still stick with him. I think that's what we do know. There may be a chance that midway through the game we see Callum Chambers coming on if Burnley are really targeting him and he's not able to step up to the challenge of that. But I would only think from a narrative point of view that it would be Ben White that would be the one that we're maybe questioning the most. But to be honest, I think this is a game for me where I think I want to have a look at Aubameyang. And, he's got his first goal in the league now. Can he push on? Because last season we didn't always see that from him. And we've got to make sure we're feeding him. You want to feed the striker because even as we're going through these images, I can see the strikers union on the other side of this and Kev staring me down going, just got to feed the striker and he'll bring you the goals. And that's what I want to see. It's just the general creativeness to continue getting our star striker fed and making sure he's scoring because that's how we're going to win the game fundamentally, is getting Aubameyang into the positions.
So I would say all this Ben White chat is great, but for me, the most important player is going to be Ramsdale. I think he's going to be the most important player because you know what? For all the crosses and stuff that might come in our box, he could be key to it all to just nullify. If he comes for crosses and he takes them, he nullifies Burnley. The communication's going to be key. I like the way he's been communicating, and I think this is a real big opportunity for him against a team who could cause us a bit of problems on set pieces, etc. But I truly believe if he marshals his defence well, hey, I tell you, this could be the making of Ramsdale. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
And
Don't
also,
need to worry
Kev,
about Ben White in the air if Ramsdale's catching
Ramsdale, yeah.
Exactly.
Also,
yeah.
Also, if he keeps another clean sheet and gets off to that type of start, that would be really epic. A lot of the people in chat are also suggesting that they're really looking to Thomas Partey to have a big game, like a commanding game, put your team on your shoulders. They mentioned Vieira, but of course we can't compare him to Vieira until he wins multiple trophies in the Premier League. But they want a commanding performance from him. And it's due, is it not, guys? Is it?
Well, it's his first game. Well, it's his first. If he starts, it's his first start of the season. So, it's again one thing we do know: he does have the quality, and the key is that the attitude of our team. If everybody's up for it, I've got no problems whatsoever. We will win the game. But if we get like I said, if we get a performance like Brentford, where people are questioning our physicality, can we match them? Then it doesn't matter whether Thomas Partey has a good game because we're going to break down in other places. So I think it's a tough one, really tough one.
Okay, cool. Josh, I'm going to get you in on this one. I love this question. Who from the bench could change it up if it's still 0-0 at 60 minutes?
I think one of them is Lacazette moving Aubameyang to the wing. If that's the issue that we've got at that point is the fact that Aubameyang's not getting into the game, but we can still get down the flanks with them. Then it's an opportunity to bring him in. And as Kev said, what Lacazette brings to that is that focal point. He's going to be pushing Burnley back, allowing the space for Aubameyang to get in, especially when we've got Odegaard still there in the middle. We're not going to see Lacazette sitting in the kind of, dropping deep, trying to collect the ball. He's going to be up there. He's going to be a proper striker that we expect him to be. Other players that I potentially could see coming on, I wonder if we see Maitland-Niles come back in. You guys were discussing of his performance against Norwich. It seemed a little kind of water carrier to me, generally, but I think you do need somebody there that is safe in possession, can just knock it on, play the simple passes, allows everybody else to get into position whilst he's on the ball. He's got a little bit in his locker, so he can help break down the team, but just a bit of secureness. He's got that recovery pace to get back, so Tierney doesn't need to worry necessarily about always tracking back because he knows there's a guy there that's going to be able to cover for him. And the same goes for Tomiyasu as well on the other side, that if he knows there's a quick, pacey sweeper that can get back into the position, if he's caught up the pitch, then he's one to have a look at as well.
Okay, cool. Kev, I'm going to get you to answer this one, 30 seconds from Justin. Another good question. Do you focus on your strengths in these matches or look to counter the strength of the opponent?
No, you have to look to your strength, but you obviously have to be aware of what your opponent's good at. That's for sure. And I think the Arsenal players all know what Burnley bring to the table. Let's be honest. Everybody knows what Burnley are going to bring to the table. They're big, they're strong, they're tough, and they mix their game up. Sometimes they can play through midfield. Other times they hit wood and they play off the knockdowns. So, again, you have to be able to match them. But like I always say, Sophie, this game is about two states. One when you have the ball and one when you don't have the ball. When we don't have the ball, we got to be on to that second ball when they hit wood. Whether Ben White wins it or not, because you know what? Or Gabriel, because what they want to do, they want the centre-half. Even if the centre-half's going to win it, they don't want them to power it back that way. They want them to nudge it down so the midfielders can come crashing and win the second ball. And that's what we got to be really good at. And that's not what that's not one of our best traits, Sophie, is getting onto the second ball. But I'll be a lot more confident in Partey and Sambi, or Maitland-Niles if he plays, getting onto that second ball because they're more athletic.
Okay, cool. And I'll get you out on the Kawabenas here. Why 4-2-3-1 and not 4-3-3 when our intention is to dominate the game? A little, Kev, you've talked about this, and Josh, dominate the game and suffocate them in possession so that we don't concede so many counter-attacks. Burnley aren't really necessarily a counter-attacking side, are they? You guys aren't they more of a soak up the pressure side and they take their moments when they can? What, both of you, real quick on this one.
Burnley,
yeah.
4-2-3-1 is 4-3-3. So again, you know, you could mix up, you could put numbers wherever you want. It's the same thing. The key to Burnley is if they're getting joy physically, they push you back. And they will play to wood and ask you the questions. If you're answering the questions, then they'll try and play and try and get it down the flanks and try and get crosses in. The key to it is what we're going to do when we have the possession. If we dominate the ball and we take possession and we could put them on the back foot, then they have to kind of play counter because they'll be at the edge of their box because they'll be scared of the speed.
Yeah, they're not going to play through us with the counter attack. They're going to play over us with the counter. That's the difference. And it's easier for us to kind of deal with it because we know one ball's coming over, win that ball, win the second ball, counter attack nullified. It's not watch out for that pass coming there. Or where's that player going? Where's that player going? They're very route one.
And Josh, we've got the speed now in the centre backs to deal with anything over the top.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because Wood and Barnes ain't running away from anybody.
No.
All right, Josh, I'm going to give you the close on the tactical squad show, 30 seconds, and then over to Kev to close the show. It's been brilliant tonight. You guys have asked some great questions. It's a hard 45 minutes. We have gone over time in true Sophie fashion. Of course, I know everyone's going to come at me, but don't. 500 of you in live chat. You know what to do.
250 likes minimum. Hit it, Vinny. Just like Vinny, he cannot stand that lot down the road. He hates them.
Come on, Vinny. Bring it home. Bring it home. So, Josh, in a nutshell, what you're expecting tomorrow in about 45 seconds.
I am expecting a game to start quite slowly whilst we try and work Burnley out. And then what I'm hoping for is hell for leather. We're attacking Burnley. We are pushing them back. We are aggressive. We're getting a number of decent shots off. I want to see a similar number of shots that we saw against Norwich. 30 shots against the door, really testing Nick Pope in goal. That's what I really want to see. And if we only get one goal and we win 1-0, fine, it's okay. It's the performance we want to see. A bit like Norwich as well. Disappointed we only scored once against them, but you know what? We came away with 3 points, and we just want to see that performance and the clinical players getting more clinical.
Like it. All right, that's good. I've nothing else, Kev. It's down to you now to have your final word and close the show for us.
Yeah, no, listen, I like Josh's team. I must admit that was virtually the team I picked. And the key is attitude. Once our attitude is right, we're going to be fine. And you know what? I think this is a really good testing ground for this team now. We've got that back five with Ramsdale in it, Tommy Gunn at right back, Ben White, Gabriel and Tierney. We get another clean sheet. We're in the business, aren't we? That's the key.
Are you going to let him get away with the Thomas Partey then, Kev? Are we going to drop that now? We're just going to let him...
No, he's not got away with that yet. I'm not finished yet, by the way.
Oh, no.
He's putting Thomas Partey in and he wants to sell him. So is he playing himself in the team, Josh? Is he upping his transfer fee so we can sell him?
Yeah, we're playing in minutes so he got his value up. That's what we're doing.
So we get his value up. Love that. I love that, Josh. I love that. No, I still think we'll win the game. And look, we haven't turned the corner yet, I know. But I think the attitude has to be right if we're going to get anything, and it needs to be.
Awesome. And Josh, quick prediction the Squaddies want from you.
I predict I won't be watching the game because I'm going to the zoo. That's my prediction for it. I don't do score predictions.
Oh, hold on a second.
It's my dad's
Kev,
birthday.
he's pulled another one.
Hold on a minute. What is going on with you, Josh? What is going on? You're going to the zoo.
I'm blaming Sophie. Every time she's invited me on, I've then not been able to see the game live. I think it's something to do with it.
You're getting a yellow for that.
I'm going to have to get my own cards as well, because I think you'll do one as well.
Hey, Sophie. Sophie, do you know the funny thing? He didn't even get a yellow for that disgraceful comment last week, by the way.
He got a straight red. He got a straight red. So, I mean, we're going to have to ban him next week. He's going to the zoo over watching the Burnley. I love it. But you know what? It's his dad's birthday. So happy birthday to Josh the Human's dad. Come on.
Nice one. Nice one.
But he's still getting a yellow for that.
Happy birthday to you.
I'll take it.
Happy birthday to you. I think Arsenal win the game. I think it'll be close. And like I said before, Soph, I think 2-1. Arsenal win the game 2-1.
All right, cool. Kev, you get to close the show.
Okay, Josh, thanks again for coming on, mate, and giving us plenty to think about. Really appreciate you. Sophie, hostess with the Moses, thanks ever so much, and thanks for keeping that yellow card in place for me. And Josh now evens it up 1 each with yellows. And you, Squaddies, always quality, always great. Keep hitting that like button. And Squaddies, we salute you.
Hold on
we
a second.
salute you, Squaddies. Come on.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.